Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 179, featuring the top 5 one-off captains. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I am the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we are returning to our fantastic one-off series of topics with a super fun one. Tonight we're doing our one-off captains, and we'll get into exactly what that means in a minute, because there's some different ways you can look at that. But first, let's introduce our Trekkie guest tonight. First up, returning for her 6th overall TrekRank appearance, and back for the first time in like 2 years, hailing us from the Columbus Imperium, it's Heather Kirby. Welcome back, Heather.
Oh, I'm so excited to be back. I am so pumped. This is an awesome topic, and I was really excited to have all of Star Trek to pull from.
It's insane. Heather's been on 5 times, and unplanned, all 5 of them were series-specific topics. So this is the first time you have the entire canvas to choose from, and that is fantastic. It's a little more fun, a little more homework.
Yes.
And our second guest tonight, making his 3rd TrekRanks appearance, logging in from the UK sector, it's our friend Michael Bentley. Welcome back, Michael.
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much. Hi, Heather. And I'm just so excited to be on this. I always enjoy being on TrekRanks, and this is a really fun topic.
Yeah, this one's a unique topic. Last time Michael was on Connective Trek, which is a great episode. Somewhere in the 150s. Go find it. Okay, gonna be a great show. Let's get started with our TrekRanks recalibration.
What are you recalibrating?
Everything. It's a sweeping, a recalibration of all systems.
Okay, the TrekRanks charter has 2 clauses. 1, we rank Trek so we can have a fun conversation about Star Trek. And 2, the ranks don't matter. We just use them as the framework to have a deep dive conversation about all the things we love about Trek. Because as Mr. Spock himself has said, our show is all about
infinite diversity in infinite combinations, symbolizing the elements that create truth and beauty.
There are no wrong answers at TrekRanks. This show is about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all, from TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, now Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Short Treks, Lower Decks, and Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through the 4th season of Star Trek Lower Decks and 903 overall episodes of Star Trek across the past 57 years. And one final note that we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well.
Hailing frequencies open.
Thank you, Mr. Worf. You can hail me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise and Extra on Blue Sky at TrekRanks, and you can see our extensive rankings of all the Treks at TrekRanks.com. And don't forget to call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. Need to get some voicemails in. Oh, we have one today, actually. Okay, so to wrap it up, Heather and Michael, let everyone know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Heather.
You can still primarily find me on Twitter at NerdyGal33. I'm pretty sure I have a Blue Sky account too, but I rarely ever check it. I'm also on Facebook. I also rarely ever check it. So
still hanging in on Twitter. That works.
Twitter hasn't died yet. I'm still there. I'm going down with the ship.
Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I'm still on Twitter as well at Michael Angie. That's MichaelAngie. And I'm also on Blue Sky, and I'm trying to be on that a little bit more often. And I quite like it there. It's a bit quiet, but I quite like it. And that's also at Michael Angie. So, yeah, you can reach me either of those 2 places.
Okay, the day Blue Sky adds gifts is the day I fully commit. All right.
Yes.
We are ready to run a diagnostic cycle to get into this show.
Computer, run a level 2 diagnostic.
So really quick, this is the 7th time we've done one of our one-off topics. So that means we're doing our quick roll call. We started way back in episode 20 with our one-off heroes. And since then, we've done one-off villains, romances, Klingons, guest stars, and relatives. And today we're doing one-off captains, which Oh yeah, quick shout out. I'm going to give it to Nick McCalloch, whose name I probably just butchered, on Twitter at Ravens Films. He tweeted us about this idea not that long ago, and I quickly got into the rotation because I'm always looking for good one-off topics, and I love this one. So, one-off captains, pretty self-explanatory, but there's actually a lot of different ways you can kind of look at it. So, do they have to appear only in one single episode, or could it be a character who's just a captain in one single episode? Some different ways to play with that. So, we'll see how everyone did that in their Prime Directive.
Do they know about Prime Directive? They know everything I know, sir.
And you're about to know everything we know about our Prime Directive. So, Heather, we're going to start with you. How did you break it down for your one-off captains list?
The main thing I limited myself to was that I only wanted one pick from each series.
Oh,
so
right.
I didn't want to do multiple picks from multiple series. Because like when I thought about it, like there's some series that do one-off captains really well. And then there's some that don't have a lot. So like you could end up having a lot of picks from one series. So I wanted to spread the love around. In my head, they did have to be like only in one episode. But there's also at least one of my picks that is a character that you see throughout the series, but you'll kind of understand when we get to it why it's a one-off captain. So
I like that. So that's pretty definitive. And yeah, I figured you would spread it around with different series this time. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously there's a ton of one-off captains. Possibly not all of them particularly interesting because, you know, by definition, we don't see them for very long. So as my list got longer, I realized that I just had to narrow it down, and I decided that they had to be Starfleet captains.
Okay.
Because there were just too many non-Starfleet captains.
Yeah.
I also decided that I had to really like these characters as people, even though we may not have, you know, got to know them thoroughly, or some of them actually, I feel like we do get to know them a lot. And at the very least, to feel real sympathy for them. So basically, Starfleet captains who I really like.
Okay, I like that. So mine, I kind of looked at it a little bit different. I picked my number one criteria for narrowing it down was I want more of this character, and I almost feel cheated that I didn't get more. So that was my number one thing. I looked at maybe trying to only pick legitimate actual captains with a crew, and they're labeled captains, which would rule out a lot of different aliens and different things. But I ended up throwing that out the window. So, but I did make sure they have an actual crew, so they're not just like a one-off like Captain Durgo, who from Final Mission, who Wesley and kind of makes fun of. And just that I want more of this character, and I feel cheated that I didn't get it. Okay, let's do it. Third Automaticon, introduce us to the order of things.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Thank you, Third Automaticon. As always, we're going to start with 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease our picks, and we'll each reveal our one-off captain choice and the reason we're highlighting it. And the episode should be pretty clear in terms of who you're picking. And then after getting through 5 rounds of picks, we'll get a few secondary system selections from everyone. And remember, if you have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Heather, we're going to start with you. What's your number 5 pick for your top 5 one-off captains?
all right, number 5, 5-word summary. Heard the original Klingon K-pop. Hashtag make your blood scream.
No way. That's a great pick. Oh my God.
It is General Garkog, which I
Is that his name?
actual name. That is
what's
his actual name.
Garkog?
Garkog, yes.
So good.
From Strange New World, Season 2, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody.
Oh my God, so good. And that's Bruce Horak.
Yes. So that's mainly the reason why I picked him, because I love Bruce Horak. Hemmer deserved better. But I also love this episode and just that little taste of Klingon. And it's so unexpected in the episode to just have him burst out in a pop song as he's singing.
Why have you?
Why you only calling us when you got your dramas. One of these days we'll repay you, we'll slay you. Gonna draw your last breath at the end of my glance. Your eternal torture is every Klingon dream. You know what I mean? Break the scream.
You know, this episode is amazing. Like, I love Subspace Rhapsody. It's so fun, and I get musicals aren't for everyone, but you got to have some joy to appreciate this episode. And yeah, I want more singing in my Star Trek.
Any opportunity to talk about Subspace Rhapsody is a good opportunity. Oh my God, this is so great.
Yeah.
Such a smart pick. And I mean, I love Subspace Rhapsody. I love this moment. It's like the stupidest thing in the history of Star Trek that absolutely is a home run, right? It totally works.
Exactly.
It's so great. And have you guys seen the special feature, the Klingon opera version of it? Because it's so funny when I watched it. I was like, it totally doesn't work, right? Like they filmed both, and I'm so glad they went with this boy band hip hop thing. It's amazing. Michael, what's your take on General Garkog, apparently? Subspace Rhapsody.
I never thought of this one. I think it's brilliant. I love Subspace Rhapsody. I agree. This is just like such a silly moment in Star Trek. But one thing I love about Strange New Worlds is that they like really go there once they get an idea. They just like fully commit to it. So like as you said, stupidest thing ever, but it's just like really, really funny. And it's a great pick.
Totally works. Heather, you could not have started this off any better. What a pick. Incredible. All right, Michael, what's your number 5 pick?
Okay, 5 words. Star Trek's first woman captain. Hashtag wom, 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 wom.
Oh no!
Probably can't tell what that is.
No, it's Madge.
It is. It's Madge. It's from Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, and the unnamed captain of the USS Saratoga, played by Madge Sinclair, who coincidentally also played another Star Trek Starfleet captain later on, Captain LaForge. In the novelization by Vonda McIntyre, apparently she's named as Captain Alexander. And I've not read that book yet, but I have read other Vonda McIntyre books. I think she's such a good writer. So for me, it's canon. She's Captain Alexander. I really like her because, like, obviously we don't see her for very long. The Saratoga is the first ship that encounters the cetacean probe. But she has this like really calm, thoughtful, kind of unruffled demeanor, even with this gigantic thing shutting the ship systems down. But she is also, if we don't count Turnabout Intruder, and I'm definitely not counting Turnabout Intruder, Star Trek's first woman Starfleet captain. I'm almost sure of that.
Yeah.
And not only that, she's a black woman captain. So she's a trailblazer for, representation, and the first in a line leading to one of my favorite Star Trek characters who I love more and more every time I rewatch Discovery. That's Michael Burnham herself. Yep, trailblazer.
Continue transmitting universal peace and hello in all known languages. Get me Starfleet Command.
Ready, Captain.
Starfleet Command, this is USS Saratoga patrolling Sector 5, neutral zone. We're tracking a probe of unknown origin on apparent trajectory to the Terran solar system. Attempts to communicate with the probe have been negative on all known frequencies.
Such a great pick. I always forget the show doesn't have a name, and it's like Saratoga Captain. So yeah, I love this pick. I mean, a little bit of a deep cut, but also a deep cut maybe because she's on the screen so short, but she's so well known, right? It's like everyone remembers this, and yeah, she's been well known as the first female captain on screen, which is it's a huge thing. So I love it. Madge Sinclair in The Voyage Home as the Saratoga captain. Heather, what do you think?
That's a fantastic pick. I will admit right here that I have watched everything, but I think I've only watched The Voyage Home once, and I know everybody loves it, but I wouldn't have thought of it myself. And it's just because I haven't watched the movie a million freaking times, but I think that's an awesome pick.
You're going to need to fix that, Heather. And also, Madison Sinclair is a great actor. It was awesome that she got to come back as Geordi's mom in Interface.
Yeah.
So I love this pick. I love that she's a big part of Star Trek in that regard. Okay, an unbelievable start. Let's go to my number 5 pick. A little bit of a deep cut. 5 words and a hashtag. A matter of internal security, hashtag. A friend in the Romulan Empire. My pick is Commander Dinatra from Star Trek Nemesis, the
lovely.
TNG film. And she's the commanding officer of the Romulan Valdor Warbird. And she's played by Dina Meyer. And she's a really interesting character. I really liked her from one of my main takeaways from Nemesis that I really liked, that she's first part of the coup to kind of elevate Shinzon as the praetor of the Romulan Star Empire. And then as she kind of realizes how unhinged he is and he's going to do more harm than good for Romulus, she changes her allegiance and ends up helping Picard in that final incredible, great space battle, underrated space battle in Nemesis with the Enterprise and the Valdor fighting the Scimitar. So I love it. And she has a lot of great one-liners, like you made a friend in the Romulan Empire. Romulan Ale Captain is, what she drinks. Let's go to work. There's just a lot of really good, quick moments, and this really falls into my category. I would love to see this character some more. Definitely want more of Commander Dinatra. Heather, what's your take on her in Nemesis?
I think that's a fantastic pick as well. The one thing I love about the Romulans is that they have a lot of strong female characters, and it's like they really appreciate strong women in the Romulan Star Empire. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Michael?
Yeah, I love Dinatra. She's one of the things that I really love about Nemesis. Not my favorite film, but it's got some really good things in it, and she's a really great character, and I've kind of always fancied her. But she as Heather said, she's one of a number of really, really great Romulan commanders of starships, and I do love that relationship.
Yep.
She begins to forge with Picard at the end when he offers to buy her a drink, and she's very, very memorable.
Captain Picard, Commander Dinatra of the Warbird Baldur. Might we be of assistance?
Assistance?
The Empire considers this a matter of internal security. We regret you become involved.
Commander, when this is over, I owe you a drink.
Romulan Ale, Captain. Let's get to work.
You heard the lady. Let's go to work.
Yes, one of many great Romulans. We'll see if we get any more on this show. And yes, as Picard might say, she's a handsome woman. One of my all-time favorite Picard lines. Okay, let's go to round 4. Heather, what do you got?
All right, so my 5 words and hashtag don't really give this away, so I might have to explain it afterwards.
Okay.
Captain, you're making a mistake. Hashtag watch your back. We are headed to Enterprise for season 4, episode 18, In a Mirror Darkly, part 1. And this is Captain Forrest of the ISS Enterprise.
I love it. I knew it exactly when you said that. I don't know why that line is so memorable when he yells, "Captain, you're making a mistake."
Yeah.
So good.
So I love the fact that we got to revisit Forrest in this way, in the mirror universe. And we never, he's an admiral throughout Enterprise, so we never see him as a captain, but just having him be the captain of the Enterprise in this first episode, and him really still having a lot of honor to him, even though we're in the mirror universe. I feel like Captain Forrest has a lot of honor, and he like even at the end of the episode when he sacrifices himself to kind of save the rest of the crew, like that's something you don't see in a lot of mirror universe characters, you know, so it stands out.
Yeah, this pick is genius. It is really genius because you get this is the one you were talking about where it's a character we know, but it's a one-time captain. It's a mirror universe, and it's so cool that because you kind of forget it when you're watching this episode that, oh yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
So this is a return for Vaughn Armstrong back to the series so that he can get, one more crack at it. I love it. Such a great pick. I mean, listen, so In the Mirror Darkly is just so much fun. Fantastic. Michael.
Yeah, that's a great pick. It's been a little while since I've seen In the Mirror Darkly, but it's such a memorable episode, and I do remember Forrest in it, and he does have that sense of honor still. It's just really, really nice to see him back.
Yeah.
I think that scene of him kissing Hoshi, it kind of like creeps me out a little bit.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
But
he's great. It's just lovely to have him back in that season after his untimely death. So
Michael, what do you not understand about the mirror universe? All right, Michael, what is your number 4 pick?
Okay, 5 words. A captain out of time. # no counselor needed. I'm picking Captain Lisa Cusack of the USS Olympia in DS9, Season 6, Episode 25, The Sound of Her Voice.
I did not think of this. Such a good pick.
So good.
Oh, man, I forgot about her.
So good. I forgot about her, too.
God, such an awesome pick.
Obviously, we don't actually see Lisa Cusack at all, except kind of at the very end. She's just a voice in a distress call picked up by the Defiant, who are setting out to rescue her. She's the sole survivor of her ship's crash on the way home from a long mission in the Beta Quadrant. But she's a really memorable character, and the actor Deborah Wilson gives her so much character just through the sound of her voice.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, Chief.
And Commander Gatsby's dead too. I didn't see any other escape pods leave before the ship was destroyed, so I may be the only survivor. My pod was torn open on impact, and the rain is pouring in.
She's slightly caustic and dry and teasing, especially with Bashir. She's also very emotionally intelligent, so while the crew are helping her by keeping her spirits up, keeping her company, keeping her distracted, she also ends up helping them in kind of like emotionally supportive ways. So she's kind of like she might be untrained, but she's kind of a natural counselor, really. There's times when you can sense this feeling of suppressed desperation in her voice. And I really empathize with her because for me, dying slowly in a damp, barely breathable cave, like literally light years away from anyone, probably one of the worst things I can imagine. And she doesn't know it, and they don't know it, but she's even more isolated than that because she's 3 years in the past.
Yeah.
So the Defiant doesn't reach her in time because due to, I think it's the planet's atmosphere, some sort of timey-wimey stuff. Her voice travels forward in time by that long.
Yeah.
So consequently, they find her long dead. According to Memory Alpha, she died in 2371, which is the same year as Star Trek Generations. But the episode is set in 2374. So she's out of time in 2 senses.
Yeah.
And I love Miles O'Brien's words at her wake back on the station. He said, I never shook her hand and I never saw her face, but she made me laugh and she made me weep. And just tiny bit of trivia, Deborah Wilson's been in Star Trek since then, much more recently, also doing voice work. She voiced some of the TARS Lamora miners in Prodigy, in Lost and Found and A Moral Star, apparently.
Oh.
And she also played the Klingon Captain Tridge? Is it Tridge? In Prodigy Supernova. She's a Klingon captain who Gwyn makes contact with and persuades to help her and help Starfleet.
Right. Yeah,
so
I remember that character.
Okay.
I'm really glad that
I didn't know that.
she came back. I didn't know that until just the other day. So yeah.
Okay, that is awesome. You could pick that Klingon captain too.
Yeah.
Listen, you could not summarize any better. Everyone loves this episode. It's one of those underrated, beloved gems. Perfect summary of it. And I was just going to say, Deborah Wilson, man, what a performance. She's a kind of iconic actor. She's been around, done a bunch of stuff, and her performance there is absolutely immaculate. I love it. Heather, what's your take on Lisa Kuzak and the sound of her voice?
It's such a beautiful episode. It's beautiful. It's emotional. It's touching on literally all fronts, because like you said, she does such a wonderful job of like really counseling and listening to members of the crew while they're doing the same thing to her. And it's sad, but it's heartwarming as well, because especially at this point in Deep Space Nine, they needed an episode like this where everybody could just get their feelings out and have a big emotional fest. And it's really a special episode. It was a wonderful pick.
It really is so good. Okay, so I love when this happens on TrekRanks. This aligns perfectly with my pick, Michael. So you just said, so Lisa Kuzak, we never see her, right? We only hear her throughout the whole episode. So my pick, not only do you not see this captain, we never even hear this captain. And I always think of this character, and this is a legitimate pick, but it's somebody we never saw or hear, and there's no actor playing it. So it's all off screen. So here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. Never knows when to quit. Hashtag FOB, friend of Ben. And my pick is Captain of the USS Centaur, Charlie Reynolds, in A Time to Stand from Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 1. And I love this guy. If you remember, this is the captain of the USS Centaur. We see his ship. And Sisko is in the Jem'Hadar warship. And he's heading into the Dominion, into Cardassian space. And all of a sudden, Charlie Reynolds shows up, and he's chasing Ben and the crew in this ship, and he's firing at him. And you have all these great moments. So here's what we know about him, even having not seen or heard from him. He's the captain of the USS Centaur in the Dominion War, so he's very active. He's good friends with Ben Sisko. Ben describes him as someone he never did know when to quit. He describes him as he likes to swing for the fences, and that he's been in tight spots before, and he'll get out of this one. Because what happens, of course, is they finally have to turn and face him, and then Captain Reynolds hightails it back to Federation space because a bunch of other ships start chasing him, and they're a little worried, like, oh my God, I hope those ships don't catch him. Anyway, just a super cool thing, and this fits my mold of I want more of Captain Charlie Reynolds. Guy sounds incredible. He sounds super awesome. So that is my pick. Heather, what's your take on this one in A Time to Stand?
I wouldn't even consider it. I think I need to rewatch DS9.
Do you remember this scene? Oh, it's a cool little scene.
I don't even remember it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely going on the list of I need to rewatch that for sure.
Mean, it's such an iconic episode and moment. Michael, do you remember it?
I do remember it, yeah. And I just think it must have been so hard for Sisko to not only not be able to contact a Starfleet ship and explain what's going on, but also, like, it's his friend, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, I even remember the name. I didn't, not at first, when you first said it, but yeah, I do remember it clearly now. Yeah, it's a great
one of those ones that's just been in my head for, 25 years now. And it's just a cool moment when they're, like, worried about him being chased by these ships, but there's nothing they can do. All they can do is continue with their mission. Deep Space Nine, great stuff. Okay, soup round, round 3. Let's do it. Heather, what do you got?
And now, as I'm sure that somebody out there has said, it's time to pay for the soup.
All right, so soup round. I wanted to do it. I think it's kind of specifically for round 3. I wanted to do something that wasn't an obvious pick for me, but I think it's kind of an obvious pick for this topic because it's definitely someone that you would automatically think of. So 5 words. I'm in command here, Mr. Spock. Hashtag Shock does crazy things. And it is Commodore Decker from TOS Season 2, Episode 6, The Doomsday Machine.
Awesome pick. He's on my secondary systems for sure.
Yeah. So I think he's really much a legendary character because he's someone that you definitely will remember for his performance in this episode. And he's like slightly unhinged throughout the entire episode. But at the same time, it's understandable considering like his entire crew is dead, and it's really because he beamed them down onto a planet that didn't have a livable atmosphere and then got destroyed by the doomsday machine at the same time. So he's going through the gamut of emotions of feeling guilt for what happened to his crew and wanting revenge against this machine. And I love the end of it where he's very much the person, even though he sacrifices himself in a slightly suicidal way. But through that, they find the solution as to what they can do to stop and destroy this machine. And so it ends up with a more positive ending that, he didn't die in vain, and they do end up stopping it.
Yeah, he gets a lot of redemption there at the end for everything. I don't recognize your authority to relieve me.
I don't recognize your authority to relieve me.
William Wyndham, all-time iconic performance in the history of Star Trek. Definitely on my list. I thought about picking him. He's in my secondary system. Michael, what's your take on the Doomsday Machine?
Yeah, he's really Captain Ahab, isn't he? In a way, he's one
definitely, yeah.
He's one of the characters that I first thought of. I didn't pick him, but I did see. I have recently finished a TOS rewatch, so he's really fresh in my mind. He's so memorable. The expression on his face when he's sacrificing himself it's almost iconic. It's just I can just see him so clearly in my mind, and very, very memorable character.
I love it. Wait, who's this Captain Ahab? What Star Trek series what was his ship? Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Let's go to Michael. What's your super round pick?
Super round, 5 words. Are you from outer space? #close but no cigar. This might be a slight cheat. I'm picking Captain Cristobal Rios of the USS Stargazer in my dearly beloved, incredibly unfairly maligned Season 2 of Picard. I know that Rios is a captain the whole time, even in Season 2, really, even in the 21st century, but we only see him as a Starfleet captain in a Starfleet uniform, commanding a Starfleet ship in one episode, The Stargazer, which I think is a great episode. The thing about Rios, his arc parallels Picard, because he follows the road not taken by Picard, in Q's words. Picard's overriding priority in TNG and beyond was always duty and captaincy in Starfleet. But in relationships, he could never fully commit. He had problems with attachment. He kept putting up walls. I think Picard still had fun. I think some people here might be Team Vash. But as Patrick Stewart said, and I saw him interviewed by Will Wheaton on the Ready Room, and he said, I think Picard used the job as an excuse to avoid attachment. And eventually, at the end of Season 2, he learns his lesson, he accepts his past, and he begins to change. But this is paralleled by Rios' journey, because he obviously seems to be a very competent and charismatic captain, but we've seen him in Season 1, and we know that deep down he's still lonely, and he's a kind of like a man out of time. He's playing vinyl records of Billie Holiday, and when in Season 2 he discovers like real cigars, he's just like so excited. And by the end of the season, he's found love with Teresa, and he's going to be a father to Ricardo. And he's still able to help people, maybe in a place where he's even more needed. Like Teresa said, the future has enough heroes already, don't you think? So it took Picard almost his whole life to let love in. But Rios travels the arc from Starfleet captain to part of a tiny, almost anarchist group, helping those who have no one else to help them, in Seven's words, in just 10 episodes, which in story time is just a few days, because I think the whole of season 2 takes place in just like a few days.
Yeah.
And several centuries as well. And the Mariposas are still in existence in the 25th century because the SS Ilios is a Mariposa vessel in season 3. And he's just such a lovable character. I really missed him during season 3, but I do think he made the right decision, and I love him. And I love that glimpse of him on the bridge of a starship being the captain.
It's such a clever pick. I love this because it tricked even me because I was like, wait, he was in Farewell, the last episode too, when they all got back on the Stargazer, right? No, of course not, because he didn't come back.
No.
Yeah.
So he was only seen as the captain of the Stargazer in that first episode of Picard, the Stargazer, in the beginning of the awesome Picard season 2. This is a safe space for Picard season 2 love. Fantastic. I love this pick. Heather, what's your take on Rios?
I think this pick is wonderful. I love Rios. Rios is one of my favorite characters of Star Trek Picard. And, as much as we are all for cheating on TrekRanks, I don't think it's cheating given your prime directive.
Yeah.
Because your prime directive was Starfleet captains, and we only saw him as a Starfleet captain in this one episode. So I don't think it's cheating given your prime directive. But it's just wonderful. Like, I started smiling as soon as you said Rios. Like, he's a great character, and as much as I hated seeing him, not having him in season 3, I love the arc that he went on in season 2, and I feel like it ended really well for him. Like, he got a happy ending, and a happy ending for his character, and it was great.
Yep, really, really good. I mean, again, so clever. I tried to think of a way to get a Picard pick in and couldn't do it. So I love this. Okay, my round 3 pick, and this one is a bit of a cheat, but I had to do it. It's a 3-for-1 pick, 5 words and a hashtag. First Bolian, youngest Starfleet captain, hashtag, and an old friend. And it's the 3 conspiracy captains from Conspiracy TNG Season 1, Episode 25. It's crazy. So there's 3 one-off captains who are all super cool and unique and interesting in this episode of Star Trek TNG. You have Captain Walker Keel of the USS Horatio, who's played by Jonathan Farwell, deceased. He doesn't make it out of the episode. Captain Twyla Scott, the youngest captain not the youngest, he says, she made captain faster than anybody else. USS Renegade, played by Ursuline Bryant, and she didn't make it out of the episode either. And then Captain Rix of the USS Thomas Paine, the first Bolian we ever see on Star Trek. This episode is directed by Cliff Bull. He's played by Michael Berryman, who's just a horror genre legend, and he's the only one that survives of these 3. So the scene where they all kind of bring Picard in to kind of test him and see if he's been taken over, it's really well done. It's got this eerie kind of classic film noir 70s sci-fi vibe, and I just love it. The script is super smart. The set is really sharp looking, and the mining set, the way they light it, is really cool. Just a great setup. And, it's a great planet name, Ditalics B. So I had to pick these 3 conspiracy captains all together. Heather, what's your take?
I really like this episode, and I love the kind of, I feel like it's one of the first times in TNG where you really feel like something's on the line and there's something kind of sinister going on underneath. And the whole example of them testing Picard to see if he's been taken over or not really highlights that. So I love the pick, and I think it makes sense to not just pick one of them, but have all 3. Definitely.
Yeah, there's no way I could just pick one. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, this is such a creepy episode. Not just a horror at the end, but it's just so eerie and has this kind of like this paranoid feel all the way through. I even find like Starfleet headquarters kind of quite eerie because it's just so empty. There's hardly anybody there. Visually, it's kind of like a TOS planet. It's just very eerie, and I do remember these captains. I remember the Bolian and I remember the captain who rose to captain faster than anyone else. So yeah, it's a great pick. Great pick.
Okay, round 2, Heather, what do you got?
All right, 5 words. An example of Mariner's potential. Hashtag boim me up. It is Captain Athena Ramsey from Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 7, Much Ado About Boimler.
Okay, I love this pick. She was definitely on my list.
Yeah. So I actually really don't like this episode. I don't like the whole storyline.
It's so goofy. I totally get it though. You mean all the horror, like the horror homage with all the weird,
well, yeah,
the freaks.
Yeah, the whole freak storyline, I don't like it. But I love the B plot with Mariner and the replacement captain, which is someone she was in school with. And I think you get to learn a lot about Mariner through Captain Ramsey and how she reacts to her friend being her captain, but also it's kind of like trying to mess up and prove that she's not actually as good as her friend thinks or remembers her as. And I appreciate when Captain Ramsey calls her out on her bullshit and the fact, like, what she's doing, and was like, you knew I was going to offer you a place on my ship and you're acting like this. Like, I need the actual Mariner back. And then the whole thing with them saving Captain Dayton and her crew at the end, who isn't actually a one-off captain, because I think she was in like at least 2 or 3 episodes.
Well, I think she's the one that dies in no small parts, I think.
Yeah.
Their ship gets blown up by the Packmans.
Yeah.
Dark.
But I love watching the dichotomy between her and Mariner in this episode, and how like being like on the same path throughout the academy took them both in 2 different ways, and really shows the potential that Mariner can have in the future. Because like at this point in Lower Decks, I was not completely sold on Mariner because I didn't really like her character, but then I saw like the 2 of them together in this episode and I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going, and I can get on board with it more. And so she had to be on my list.
This is one of those key steps for Mariner in this. Long is not probably the right word, but in her story arc that's really kind of finally been resolved here at the end of season 4 of Lower Decks, with her kind of feeling with her, coping with her, with her own issues of taking on these roles. So, and this is a big moment for that. So full disclosure, there's probably like 3 awesome Trek nerds out there yelling at their podcast right now. Captain Ramsey was on my list for the longest time. And then I said, I should look it up. She was in The Stars at Night at the very end, cheering when the Cali classes all come together.
Yeah,
she leads. She's in at the very end of Stars at Night. So I said, God damn, I gotta take her off my list. But I don't care, because I'm so glad you picked her. I wanted to talk about her so much, because I just think such an awesome character portrayal. Everything about the way they reveal this on Mariner. I love it. I absolutely love it. Much Ado About Boimler is one of my underrated favorites because of this storyline, and I like the freaks. So, Michael, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I really like her as well. I think, my favorite part of this episode is the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
When the dog's talking to Tendi near the end and then flies away, that is one of the most bizarre, kind of surreal things I think I've seen in Star Trek. But yeah, I do remember this character, and as Heather said, she is she represents kind of what Mariner could have been, and also with that kind of resolution that you get at the end of season 4, it reminds me that this character also probably knew Sito Jaxa, and
yes,
so she would have been there in the background as well, and you can really sense that she and Mariner like know each other from way back.
Yeah,
it just really plays into their relationship so well. Yeah,
this is a great example of how well Lower Decks does this. So we were all chanting in unison.
Yeah, freaks fight back! Freaks fight back! Freaks fight back!
Supreme Strike Back is what they were all chanting. We were all doing it in unison.
Always gotta drop that soundbite anytime Much Ado About Bombs comes in. Okay, Michael, what's your number 2 pick?
Okay, 5 words. A jumpsuit, not a catsuit. Hashtag, Saval was wrong, it does suit her. This may be controversial. It's Captain T'Pol of the USS Enterprise NX-01 in Enterprise Season 3, Episode 8, Twilight.
I love this. I thought about trying to pick Twilight, and I couldn't quite figure, because I think they're all captain at some point in this episode. There's like T'Pol, and there's Trip, and I think Reed is a captain at some point, so I decided I'm not going to touch it. Yeah. I love this. Captain T'Pol. This is totally legit. This is, I think, the only time she's the actual captain, unless maybe when they thought she was dead, but whatever. She's
in command several times on the bridge, but
right.
This is the only time she's actually captain. I picked her for 2 reasons, both in and out of universe. Actually, 3 reasons, because I just wanted to pick T'Pol. I mean, she might be controversial because under her command, the crew do fail in her mission due to Archer's disability and arguably certain command decisions T'Pol makes. But I mean, the same could be said of countless other one-off captains. And if you think about it, even with Archer in command, there were any number of things that could have gone wrong, any number of chance events that might have happened to swing things the other way. And there's this brilliant scene between T'Pol and Saval when T'Pol blames the Vulcans for holding back Earth's warp program and denying them technology that could have given them a chance against the Xindi.
Yeah.
And she's not wrong. The Vulcans didn't help at all. They didn't send any ships into the Expanse with the Enterprise. They might have all turned into zombies anyway because they're Vulcans, but they didn't even give any moral support. They tried to prevent Starfleet from even sending the NX-01 into the Expanse. So she's absolutely right there. And my other reason for picking her is that, Captain T'Pol just looks amazing. She's in a Starfleet jumpsuit in command of the Enterprise. This is T'Pol as she should always have looked. Not catsuited, not the visual novelty on the bridge, not the 7 of 9 of Enterprise. I've got nothing against 7 of 9. I love 7 of 9. But she's a crew member, she's an officer, and in this episode at least, just for a little while, just as a one-off, she's a captain. I love Captain T'Pol.
T'Pol, amazing character, and I'm glad you picked this because I was trying to think about this one and shied away from it. But yeah, she's so good in this, and I think she needed all of that to then take that time to step away and realize she's just going to live her life helping Captain Archer in his day-to-day struggle. I really love what that says about her and the way she challenged the Vulcans in this episode. Fantastic. Heather, what's your take on Twilight from Enterprise?
Yeah, this is, well, it's just an overall great episode, and it's such a great episode for T'Pol. So I think it was a wonderful pick on that end for sure. Like if you're going to highlight T'Pol as a captain, like this is the episode to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Top 5 for sure on Enterprise ranks at TrekRanks. All right, my number 2 pick, 5 words and a hashtag, and this is the first one I thought of, and I love this captain, so he was always going to be on my list. A caveman confronted by a tricorder, hashtag antique humor. This is Captain Donald Varley of the USS Yamato in TNG Season 2, Episode 11, Contagion. And I keep picking dead captains, so this is another one who's deceased because the Yamato blows up really good in the beginning of this episode, and we mostly see him on these cool logs and flashbacks as Picard figures out his kind of backstory. And I love this guy. I want to see more of this guy again. He just feels like a cool captain to work for. He's got a good way about him. He's going to be remembered for just kind of figuring out the Iconian homeworld and finding their technology. And I love that. And he has all these long logs that just really, really the cool way to kind of showcase this character. And I love that he was, brazen enough to go into the neutral zone once he thought he had discovered where Iconia was. It might be discovered by the Romulans. So Just really good. Great character. Donald Varley from Contagion. Heather, do you remember this one?
I do actually. I love the Iconians and like Picard's fascination with them, and I think this episode really highlights his archaeological side, and it's one of the first in TNG that we get to see that. And the captain of the Yamata is a huge part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I should have said this. Also, he's one of the few 24th century Starfleet officers with a mustache. Michael, what's up?
Who isn't part of the Mirror Universe.
Exactly, right, exactly. Michael, what's your take?
Yeah, I remember this episode, but curiously, I don't remember this character at all. It has been a while since I've seen it. I do remember the Yamato blowing up. I think it was a Galaxy class, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a Galaxy class.
It was like Enterprise. I remember the story. I remember the Iconian Gateway. But and I remember the Romulan. There's another Romulan commander in it, isn't there? Played by Carolyn Seymour.
Oh yeah,
played another
right.
Romulan
Another one of the many Carolyn Seymours. Are we going to see a Carolyn Seymour Romulan in round one? We shall find out. Could happen.
And Picard said, his final words to her, but not today, as he beams out.
So great.
Not, I think, today, Commander.
But I don't remember the character at all, so I'm going to have to rewatch this one.
We're adding this to the homework list. We got The Voyage Home, A Time to Stand, and Contagion now for rewatches for everybody. Okay, round one.
Begin round one.
I love this topic, and I love that they're so broad. It is one of those topics where you have to kind of sometimes rack your brain to remember some of these characters. So this is so great. Let's do it. Heather, what's your number one pick?
All right. So this is the first person I thought of when you gave me this topic. They had to be at number one because I love them so much. 5 words. History won't forget the name. #Enterprise. It is Captain Rachel Garrett from TNG.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, TNG season 3, episode 15, Yesterday's Enterprise.
Love it.
Like I love Rachel Garrett.
She's so good.
She's so good. She's so wonderful, and she just like her strength of will throughout this episode. I mean, she literally comes through this wormhole timey-wimey thing, like being in the middle of the battle with Romulans on the other side, and she comes through into this alternate universe, and they're in the middle of a battle with Klingons, and she just her initial acceptance to stay and help the Federation because they need an extra ship, but then like Picard's explanation that, it would help us more if you went back and finished what you were doing there. Like she just takes it all in stride. And I think she's a prime example of like a Federation captain. Like that's what Federation captains are bred to be, is someone that will, despite like their own safety or their own they're willing to go the lengths they need to go to do the job that they need to do, even if it's going to be at the cost of their own life. And so I think Rachel Garrett is a huge example of that.
It's incredible how much it's Trisha O'Neill, the actor, got out of this performance in this one-off appearance as Rachel Garrett. Just seminal character in the history of Star Trek, right? Everybody knows this character. And this blew my mind when this came up in Picard season 3. Yeah. Rachel Garrett had not even been not seen, but hadn't even been mentioned one time in canon in any way, shape, or form since Yesterday's Enterprise, which is unreal to me because she's so prevalent for all the reasons you just said, Heather. She's like a Starfleet captain. She just embodies all of that. She's dynamic and strong and has like really common sense, and she just matter of fact. I love it. She conveyed all that so much in this one appearance. incredible. The Red Lady. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Michael, what's your take?
Yeah, she was actually the first. She was the first captain that I thought of when you told me about this topic. So she's amazing. She doesn't just behave like a Starfleet captain, but she is also absolutely deserves to be a captain of the Enterprise itself. And she's so memorable. She's so brave. Once she's been able to take everything in, all the timey-wimey stuff, and realizes that what she has to do, she just unhesitatingly decides, okay, like, we've got to do this. Her death is horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't want to mention that part.
So
I'm glad that, unlike Tasha Yar, she didn't end up as a Romulan's concubine, but it's sad, her death. It's really sad. She doesn't even get to go back. She's killed before then. But yeah, she's wonderful. I love Trisha McNeil. She's been in, I think, other episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah.
She was in Babylon 5.
Yeah.
And yeah, brilliant
She's
pick.
great.
Brilliant.
Incredible. And I'll just add, Rachel Garrett's the kind of character that when people want to start saying, oh, the best woman this or best, where I'm like, no, she's just the best captain.
Yeah.
Right? She's not like the best woman's captain. She is just on the list of best captains. So full stop. I love her. It's just so good. Okay, incredible. There was no way she was not going to be picked today. Let's go to Michael's number one pick. What do you got, Michael?
Okay, my number one, 5 words. Raven to Borg to Enterprise. # what an arc. It is Captain 7 of 9, commanding the USS Enterprise G in Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 10, The Last Generation.
How did I not think of this? You already tricked us with Theos, and now this one's even more obvious. It's so brilliant. So good. I did not think of this.
It's been a while since I've seen Scorpion, but I'm trying to put myself back into 1996, I think.
Add Scorpion to the list. Okay, go.
Yep. As a 30, I was 30 years old in my little rented room, watching a crappy rented TV with a snowy screen, loads and loads of static, watching this Borg drone step out of its alcove. And I could never, ever have imagined that one day, in the very far future, when I was in my late 50s, this same character, played by the same actor, would be Captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, we've known all along that Seven had many great qualities, and in Voyager she shows tremendous growth, because the last time she had individuality, she was a little girl, which I always think is why she kind of connects with Naomi Wildman, because emotionally she's like a little girl herself. Janeway's a parent figure to her, but by the end of the series, she's a parent figure herself to several ex-Borg children, and she's a teacher to each ep. So she obviously knows the Starfleet curriculum pretty thoroughly. She's downloaded it all. She even has an incredible arc from Picard seasons 1 to 3, starting off as part of the Fenris Rangers, a vigilante group. Right. She's quite cynical of Starfleet. She's morally questionable at times, like with her readiness to kill in cold blood certain people, but she doesn't think they deserve to exist. Which she's quite ashamed of that, and she says that to Rios in the season 1 finale. Even when she's finally in Starfleet, she's still kind of a rebel. So she's like, that character trait kind of like remains with her. And maybe in some ways she always will be a rebel, but there's Shaw's recorded message about the rules that she breaks. In The Last Generation, he says something like, maybe the rules she breaks deserve to be broken in the first place, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
She is brave and loyal, and the book that she writes is going to be great. And the rules that she breaks, maybe they were broken to begin with. So, in light of that, I have a recommendation. Promotion to captain when we return to port.
But my abiding image of season 3, if I think of season 3 of Picard, I just think of that final shot.
Resignation denied, Captain.
Seven in the captain's chair, setting out on the Enterprise G's maiden voyage. It's just the way she sits there, the expression on her face, her body language, that little smile on her face as she's about to utter her catchphrase that we never hear. She just owns it. She just owns it so much. She went from being a frightened little girl on a Raven, and she ends up as the captain of probably the most iconic starship in popular culture, the Enterprise. It's really important she's a queer character too. I remember after season 1, some fans wondering if that glimpse of her and Raffi holding hands was just queer baiting. And I didn't think so, and I really, really hoped not. I couldn't really imagine Michael Chabon doing that. And then at some point, I think Joey Ryan tweeted something like, "Oh, Seven is canonically bi, you can be sure of that." And I thought, oh, she knows something we don't. And I was really happy. When she kisses Raffi in farewell, I think it's the first lesbian kiss in Star Trek since we joined.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have seen a bit more of their relationship, like with Culber and Stamets in Discovery, but there's only 2 action-packed and story-packed 10-episode seasons for that to happen in, so it might not have been easy to do. I always think of each season of Picard as like this brief window into the characters' lives, and mostly Picard's life after all. So, I don't know, maybe Star Trek Legacy, if it happens, will give us more of this representation. I hope it happens. I just hope the show happens. But yeah, Captain 7 of 9, I think she deserves to be number 1. She was going to be my number 1 pick.
Fantastic summary. I mean, another really smart pick, and incredible to think about her arc and the fact that that's where she ends up as the captain of the Enterprise G. Who could have ever thought such a thing? Incredible character. Heather, what's your take on 7?
Michael, you got me emotional thinking about 7 of 9 as the captain, for real. I throughout, like, 7 is wonderful in Voyager, but I think she really became one of my personal favorite characters through her arc in Picard. And I think the story that you see her go on in Picard is so important to watch, and it's relatable for a lot of people to watch her story. And in my heart of hearts, I want to see more of a show where Captain 7 and her number 1 Raffi get to explore their relationship. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox here and say I would love to see this show, but I believe, especially with Discovery ending, that Michelle Paradise should write it, because that's the best way to have that queer representation between the two of them, is having another queer woman be the showrunner on the show. So
I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
Sure, I haven't heard that clever take on it. Listen, people, Star Trek Legacy is not happening anytime soon for years and years and years. I'm talking 5, 10 years. That's the only way it's ever going to happen, if someone kind of goes back to it and goes, oh, you know what? That's an idea that's still out there. We could do that. It's not in the works. It's not happening.
And I'm fine with that.
People. I'm fine with it too.
I will wait 10 years for this show. I am fine with it.
There's no plans for it happening. It's not going to happen in the current structure. If it ever happens, it's going to be a fresh idea way down the road when Trek's ready to do something different. Okay? Whew. Okay. Awesome pick. And Heather, I love that. Michelle Paradise. That's a great idea, actually.
That would be great, yeah.
Okay, yeah, just incredible arc. Picard series, underrated. I love it to bits. Okay, let's go to my round 1 pick. All right, full disclosure, I do this every once in a while where there's a pick that I'm like, it's my number 1 pick. It's Rachel Garrett. Of course it's my number 1 pick. But I'm going to have a backup just in case somebody else picks it, because I can do that since I have the last pick.
Yep.
So my 5 words for Rachel Garrett was never forget the name. Enterprise C, #inform the crew. We're going back. So we love it. Rachel Garrett, we covered it. So my toughest cut, which is now not my toughest cut, he's moved into my list. 5 words and a hashtag. We built it to explore, #NX Beta. And this is A.G. Robinson from Star Trek Enterprise First Flight Season 2, episode 24.
Yes.
We love Captain Robinson. We love Keith Carradine. His portrayal is epic, historic. Everyone loves this episode. It's so memorable. The Robinson Nebula, the role that T'Pol plays in this episode is amazing. This was actually one of my top 5 T'Pol episodes, which you would never think of, but I just love her in this episode and the way she elevates this character and Archer and grows herself. So anyway, Keith Carradine, amazing character, kind of gruff, old school space captain kind of guy. It takes an actor like Keith Carradine to make a character like this someone you like and root for. A.G. Robinson, and then of course, he's another one that died. So I need to keep track of how many of my captains are dead. That's a stat. Damn, this is unbelievable. Heather, what's your take on A.G. Robinson?
I'm so glad we got to talk about this episode and him, and because it's just one of those, and that's the fun thing with this topic is that there's some people you could do really deep cuts, and there's some people that just stand out as like that's a character you remember, and A.G. Robinson is one of those. I loved seeing the entire story play out about the history of the program and the friendship and dynamic between him and Archer.
What's that supposed to mean? Every time there's a problem with this project, you blame it on pilot error or gravitational anomalies or some technical malfunction. Well, you're gonna have to face the truth this time, because there's nothing left to point a finger at. Your father designed a lousy engine.
It's great. It's one that goes down in the memory books for sure. You're not going to forget this guy.
Yeah, so good. Michael, what's your take on First Flight?
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of him. It didn't even occur to me. He's such a memorable character. I love Keith Carradine as well. I saw him once in an episode of The Big Bang Theory, and I thought, it's A.G. Morrison.
Really? He was on Big Bang. I didn't know that he was on Big Bang Theory. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. I used to watch that a lot. I love this episode. The only thing I wish was different was I always think like in those flashbacks to the NX program, where are the women astronauts? Where are they? Because there's women astronauts now. The only woman you see there is like the bartender. But I do love the kind of homage to the right stuff. It's great, their friendship and their rivalry, and just the cherry on top is just like T'Pol, naming it the Robinson Nebula. And I guess one-off captains dying is kind of an occupational hazard of being a one-off captain. A lot of them do die. But yeah, he's great.
We have the statistics on. So headcanon to only show 2 captains vying for this. Like the next 6 were all women and people of color. So
there you go.
So we're in good shape. Okay, but yes, a byproduct of not great byproduct of the Enterprise series.
Well, I think your headcanon fits because the next NX captain was Captain Hernandez.
There you go. Right. And Captain Ramirez was not an NX captain, but was one of the captains going out there to meet Archer for
So that's a good headcanon. We'll go with
good
it.
stuff. Okay.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Let's go to secondary systems. Heather, what else is on your list?
The only one I have on my secondary systems is Star Trek 09 and Captain
Rabot. Yeah, he was my special shout out. Richard Rabot from the Kelvin. Yes.
Yeah. And you can even do a 2-for-1 in that because you have acting Captain George.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. That is fantastic. Really good. Yes, George O's a good one too. Richard Rabot. What a great. Again, I want to see more of that character. Right, that guy was badass. Michael, what's on your list?
Well, I had a few. I had Sonia Gomez.
Yep.
I really wanted. It was only when I thought of T'Pol that I relegated Sonia to secondary systems. I really wanted her. When I was in my 20s, when I first saw Q-Who, I had a bit of a crush on her. She was just so lovely. And seeing her in Lower Decks was fantastic. Stars at Night is one of my favorite Lower Deck. Not Stars at Night. First Contact.
First Contact, yeah.
One of my very favorite Lower Decks episodes. I thought Hologram Janeway in Supernova, I feel like she was the only one left on the ship, and she was wearing a Starfleet uniform. She sat in the captain's chair, and she did what good captains do. She sacrificed herself with the ship. And yeah, it's very, very, very moving when you see her sitting there.
Yeah.
And, you think of her character growth throughout. John Harriman,
Yep.
who I do feel a sympathy for. I think most of us have been in situations in our lives where we've been like, something's happened suddenly and we've just been unprepared. And I feel so sorry for him that he was captaining a mission in which Captain Kirk died.
Yeah, the great Alan Ruck. That's a great pick.
He's very memorable. I really like him. I really wanted to have someone from Discovery, and I thought of,
Captain Sponeman. Sorry, that's a deep cut for anyone that remembers Captain Sponeman.
I thought it was too much cheating, really, because she's basically play acting. She's not really a captain. But I thought of Sylvia Tilly of the ISS Discovery in Despite Yourself.
Oh, yes.
I love Tilly, and I would love to have had her, but I thought she's not really a captain. She's just pretending to be one.
It would be better if you come to us.
Is that how you treat your long-lost captain? If you greeted me that way, Connor, I'd cut out your tongue and use it to lick my boots.
The same with Captain Pavel Chekhov in The Final Frontier, where he's pretending to be the captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah, right.
And I thought of Vindicta, but that was before I changed my Prime Directive. So Vindicta is, first of all, not a Starfleet captain, and also she's just Mariner pretending. So, but again, I really wanted to have someone from Lower Decks, and I just couldn't get one in. But Vindicta.
Oh, Vindicta got your ass!
You're nothing but a propped-up errand girl, blindly licking Starfleet's boot and begging for a heel.
Oh, Vindicta got your ass.
Look, there's no...
Amazing. Okay, that'd be a great list. Again, apologies for all the impersonations. Here we go. So I got a few more. I had John Harriman, I had Commodore Decker and Richard Robo, Kelvin. So let's shout out to those two great Carolyn Seymour, Romulan captains, both one-offs. Toreth from Face of the Enemy, Terrace from Contagion. They're so identical. I couldn't pick them because they're basically the same. And then I love Balthazar Edison, the Crawl, Idris Elba from Star Trek Beyond. Great one-off captain. Captain Terrell, poor old Paul Winfield, the great actor from The Wrath of Khan. Captain Terrell working with Chekhov, and he dies too. The M5 computer, I had to give a shout out as a captain. And then my last one, I really considered this, but I didn't go there, is Romulan Telek Ramor, Vaughn Armstrong from Eye of the Needle, that science vessel captain.
Okay, yeah.
Cool one-off. So I love this conversation. So many deep cuts and cool ways to look at Trek. Let's get into our regeneration cycle so we can recap, and I got some awesome stats here to break down. A lot of numbers.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Heather, break down your 5.
All right. Round 5 was General Garkog from Strange New Worlds, Subspace Rhapsody. Round 4 was Captain Forrest from Enterprise in a Mirror Darkly, Part 1. Round 3 is Commodore Decker from TOS, The Doomsday Machine. Round 2 was Captain Athena Ramsey from Lower Decks, Much Ado About Boimler. And round 1, the cream of the crop from TNG, Captain Rachel Garrett and Yesterday's Enterprise.
Fantastic. Okay, so you had 5 different series, like you said. So TOS, TNG, Enterprise, Strange New Worlds, and Lower Decks. A nice split between legacy series and the new series. And then you had 3 dead captains. Yeah. Michael, break down your 5.
Okay, round 5 was the unnamed captain of the USS Saratoga, but from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Round 4, Captain Lisa Cusack of the USS Olympia in DS9 Season 6, Episode 25, The Sound of Her Voice. Round 3 is Captain Cristobal Rios in Season 2 of Picard. I'm picking the Stargazer because that's the only episode where you actually see him being a Starfleet captain. Round 2 was Captain T'Pol of the USS Enterprise NX-01 in Enterprise Season 3, Episode 8, Twilight. And round 1 was the Great 7 of 9 in Picard Season 3, Episode 10, The Last Generation, just the last few minutes of that episode.
Incredible. So you had one each from TOS, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise, and then 2 Picard episodes. I love that. And you also had 3 dead captains. Okay, my list, round 5, was Sub-Commander Danatra from Star Trek Nemesis. Number 4 was the unseen and unheard Charlie Reynolds, captain of the USS Centaur, in A Time to Stand from Deep Space Nine. My number 3 from TNG Conspiracy, the 3 one-off conspiracy captains, Walker Keel, Rix, and Twyla Scott. Number 2 was Captain Donald Varley of the Yamato in Contagion TNG. And number 1, A.G. Robinson from First Flight in Enterprise. So I had 1 each from Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, and I had 3 TNG picks. I just could not stay away from that. That's kind of what you said earlier, Heather, that it's kind of easy to kind of fall into that trap. I had 4 dead captains. So we had no duplicates, which is amazing. I cheated a little bit on that with Rachel Garrett, but no duplicates. Breakdown here for species. We had 1 each, one Romulan, Klingon, Bolian, Vulcan, and Borg. We're going to count 7 as Borg.
There you go.
And then we had 12 human picks, 17 overall because I cheated instead of 15 because of my 3 picks. And then for male and female breakdown, amazing. It was even the whole way. So it ended up with 9 male picks and 8 female captains. So right down the middle. I love it.
All right, that's awesome.
We had 10 total dead captains out of our 17 picks. And then our series breakdown, really spread it around. This is awesome. So in the new series, we had 1 each from Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, 2 Picard picks. And then from the legacy shows, 2 from TOS, 2 from Deep Space Nine, 3 from Enterprise, and 4 from TNG. And we had 1 film in there. Amazing, incredible breakdown. I love it. What an awesome topic. But now we're going to initiate a temporal inversion because it's time to hear from you.
Initiate temporal inversion.
Initiating.
And for this week's temporal inversion, we're going back to episode 176 and our top 5 episodes that feel like TNG. We got an awesome voicemail in for that one from friend of the show, Todd Keogh, on Twitter at ALBBizResearch. And he had an awesome list. So I'm going to play that one right now, including one quote-unquote controversial pick that he references.
Hi, Jim. This is Todd Kehoe calling in from the New York sector via subspace, and I couldn't resist leaving my picks for the top 5 episodes that feel like TNG, including one controversial pick I can't wait to hear your take on. So for round 5 words, holodeck episode minus the holodeck, hashtag and no bloody leprechauns. It's DS9's Season 1 If Wishes Were Horses. I don't know if this is a leftover TNG script or not, but it's definitely a play off the episode Ship in a Bottle. I also love Cole Meany telling producers he absolutely would not do a scene with a leprechaun. Round 4, only missing a conference table. Hashtag contemplation, communication, and competence. It's species 10C from Discovery's 4th season. A big part of this episode is a handful of very competent people standing around trying to figure out how to communicate with a race that, unlike most Star Trek species, is very alien. It felt like Darmok, except the crew figured out how to speak the language. My super round pick, how long is too long? Hashtag Rocktalk finds a way. It's Prodigy's Time Amok, which borrows the idea from the inner light of one member of the crew having an out-of-time experience and learning a lot about themselves along the way. Round 2, my possibly controversial pick, 5 words, Captain Force's look at inequality, hashtag and says, you must fix this yourself. My pick is Season 3, Episode 22 of TOS, The Cloudminders. Is it a Troglyte level move to pick a pre-TNG episode as a TNG episode? Maybe, but unlike a lot of TOS scripts, I feel like this one would have needed a ton of tailoring to be a TNG script. Picard makes a similar choice to help the oppressed and the hunted, and both episodes leave you wondering what the planet will be like the next time a Federation ship arrives. And my round 1 pick, Sacrifice and Speech Save Day. Hashtag TOS Alien, but TNG Execution. It is Observer Effect from Season 4 of Enterprise. Now, I love this episode. In a lot of ways, it's very TOS, especially considering that it's Organians. But it really does have a TNG finish, with Archer first willing to sacrifice his life and then trying to explain why. And the pairing for this episode is definitely Clues, with a big speech to another alien and then getting to move on without remembering exactly what happened. Thanks as always, Jim. Look forward to the next episode.
Okay, awesome list from Todd. His number 2 pick there was fantastic. That was his controversial one, which it's crazy. So he picked the Cloudminders from TOS as something that feels like TNG, even though it aired 20 years prior. And it's funny though, because I got a lot of people picked it. I couldn't believe we got like 3 or 4 people picked the Cloudminders as kind of reverse engineering a TOS episode that feels like TNG. So I love that. Awesome overall list from Todd. Appreciate that. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's Temple Inversion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all your great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them, but we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 one-off captains or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP, or you can just record it yourself and send me a DM. We connect that way. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we are doing a cool topic in honor of the end of Star Trek Discovery. We are doing the top 5 final adventures. So for that, we're looking for some kind of big final adventure, either show or arc for a series or a character or a crew or a ship or, a story arc, whatever it is, the top final adventure that you can think of as we celebrate the end of Discovery Season 5. So Heather and Michael, if you had to choose one final adventure off the top of your head, this is a tough one, what would you pick, Heather?
I think my gut pick here is to go with the last episode of Season 3 of Picard, The Last Generation.
Really good.
I think that hit all the nostalgia buttons for me, and I think it was the perfect send-off for the TNG crew.
Yeah, and that is a straightforward final adventure. I love that. It's going to be interesting how people approach this topic with the different ways you can do it. So, Michael, how about you?
The first thing that comes to mind is the final adventure that we never actually see, but we assume that it's about to take place, and that is second star to the right and straight on to morning.
That's great.
The end of the undiscovered country with the Enterprise sailing off into the sunset.
Yep.
And that for me is that's just a perfect ending for that crew. Just perfect.
2 awesome picks. I love that this topic, you can get kind of clever or you can just go straight forward. Like, these final episodes are the awesome final adventures. It's cool. Okay, gonna be a fun one.
Channel closed. Reset. Subspace communications. Scrambler code Riker 1.
Scrambler code Riker 1 acknowledged. All right, we're going to close this episode out with a huge thanks to Heather Kirby and Michael Bentley. It was awesome having you guys on. Fantastic job. So any final Trek Scrambler codes, either one of you want to relay before we depart, Heather?
I think, by the time this comes out, my podcast that I co-host, the Promenade Merchants podcast, is participating in a podcast festival that is hosted by the Strange New podcast that's going to be celebrating the final season of Discovery. It's going to be at the end of March, the week before Season 5 of Discovery premieres. And it's just a whole bunch of podcast nerds like me. We get to talk about Discovery, how much we love it. And how much we're going to miss it, because I'm going to miss Star Trek Discovery so much. So check that out. The end of March, the last weekend in March, the last days of Disco is the podcast festival, and it's hosted by Strange New Pod.
I love Discovery so much, and it's going to be emotional with the ending.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
really
definitely.
looking forward to having it finally back on after a couple of years. Michael, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks so much, Jim. I've really just so enjoyed myself so much and had a great time. Thank you.
What a fun topic. All right. Thanks, everyone, for engaging with us here on episode 179 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here, this place where I belong.
Lieutenant, how's the ship?
We've restored minimal shields and the forward phaser banks. Still no photon launchers or warp drive.
Concentrate on the weapons system. What Captain Picard told me, the Federation can use all the help it can get.
And Sue, our sensors have picked up Klingon warships in the sector, Captain.
Why wasn't I informed, Mr. Castillo?
Captain, you should...
As senior officer, I want you to be my liaison to the Enterprise D. Coordinate with Tactical.
That's me, Captain.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm resuming my duties, Doctor.
Captain, you need at least another 24 hours.
Nonsense. Doctors always overprotect their patients.
And captains always push themselves too hard.
Doctor, my ship and my crew need me now. 24 hours might as well be 24 years.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Dax, get us across the border, maximum warp. I hope Charlie Reynolds knows better than to follow us into Dominion territory. How long before we cross the border?
We just did. The Centaur's still with us.
Charlie never did know when to quit.
I hope he knows what he's doing.
The question is, do we know what we're doing?
Captain, that last hit damaged one of our guidance thrusters.
Drop us out of warp. Come about. Prepare to return fire.
Yes, sir.
The Centaur has dropped out of warp.
Target their weapons array. Avoid their engines. I don't want to leave Charlie out here stranded on the wrong side of the border.